Well, good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Stock markets snap a three-day losing streak to end the week in the green. IT, metal and auto stocks lead with gains. Rupee continues to regain more lost ground against the dollar. NCLT clears the runway for Jalan Calroc Consortium to own Jet Airways. Allows just over 120 days to clear the dues with creditors. Sources say lenders are likely to challenge the order before the appellate tribunal. More trouble for Vodafone Idea. Vendors are likely to seek advance payments from the telco starting this month. Sources say Vodafone Idea's payment history is not inspiring confidence among vendors. Indus Towers may consider discontinuing services if advance payments are not made. Wipro margins exceed streets' expectations even as dollar revenue and rupee remain a miss. The tech major posts a weak revenue guidance for the fourth quarter. With just over a fortnight to go for the union budget, Prime Minister Modi meets economists and professors to seek their inputs. The Niti Aayog said that economists offered suggestions on ways in which India can sustain its development momentum. Strategic recommendations for further strengthening India's resilience were shared as well. Supreme Court pulls up some TV channels over sensationalism, also slams the News Broadcasting and Digital Standards Authority, asking how many biased anchors have been taken off air. These observations were made during the hearing on hate speech in Supreme Court. Apple CEO Tim Cook requests and receives a pay cut of 40% after a shareholder vote. His annual compensation now stands at $49 million. Hockey World Cup kicks off in Odisha's Rourkela. This is the second consecutive time that Odisha is hosting the tournament. 16 teams will be competing for the game's ultimate honor. Well, let's begin with the day's market action. The Wall Street snapped a three-day losing streak with the Sensex gaining over 300 points and the Nifty gaining nearly 100 points. With this, both the indices managed to end the week with over 0.5% gains. IT, metals and auto stocks led with the gains. Prashant Nair is joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's market action. Prashant.
After many sessions of pain, today there was a decent bounce and I think it was good. We needed a positive, strong close and we got one. Not before the market actually going sharply lower, but then a good bounce and then we never kind of looked back. No real volatility after the first 1 hour of up and down. Bank Nifty also saw a similar kind of price activity, although Bank Nifty yesterday did not break below yesterday's, day before yesterday's low and so on and so forth. It's been relatively stronger in the very near term as compared to the Nifty, and banks also were in contention. The top sectoral gainers, by the way, almost all sectors were in the green, but the top gainers were the PSU Bank Index, the metal space and the IT services space, which was up and about. Some gainers from the large cap space, Tata Steel, Adani Enterprises, IndusInd, Eicher, Infosys. Names like Infosys, which were responding to numbers, had a bit of a down and up kind of a day, but Infi did contribute handsomely to the Nifty. In the broader markets, I mean, there were more gainers than losers, but the fact is what went up was, just look at the names. You had Lloyd Steel Industries, Vardhaman Special Steel, Sunflag Iron and Steel, ITI was one of the top gainers, Archean Chemicals, which is a recent listing, J&K Bank, Edelweiss, ISMT, Ponni Sugar, etc. So, the kind of names which went up were kind of scattered and some of the smaller sectors really participating. There were losses as well, and these were the well-traded large liquid names. LTTS was sharply down, Varun Beverages, Gujarat Gas, Bata India, Gland was down again, Aurobindo Pharma, and a few others to boot. So, broader markets, perhaps the kind of companies which went up leaves a little bit to be desired. The Nifty has seen a test of 17,774 today and has seen a good close after that. So that adds to confidence. Let's hope we get a decent close on Wall Street when we come back on Monday, because we're also going to get into the thick of the earnings season starting next Monday. Back to you.
Right, Prashant, thanks a lot for that. Now, IT player Wipro reported a weak set of numbers this quarter with both rupee and dollar revenue missing the street's estimates. However, the company's margin beat expectations, coming in at over 16%. In terms of guidance for FY23, the company expects its IT services to grow in the range of 11.5% to 12%. The management said that the company reported over $4 billion in total bookings, which was led by large deal signings of over $1 billion. Well, how has Wipro fared compared to its peers? Rima Tendulkar now joins us with a third quarter report card of IT companies. Rima, over to you.
Thanks so much for that. So the big takeaway from the big four IT companies is that so far things are steady. It's not as bad as what the street was fearing. In fact, TCS, Infosys, HCL Tech, 3 out of the 4 companies have reported a revenue beat. Wipro, though, missed the mark. In terms of growth rates, it's HCL Tech which tops the chart with a 5% constant currency revenue growth aided by strength in its products business. But the year-on-year picture will tell you that all the companies have reported a double-digit revenue growth. The performance on margins was mixed. Infy, TCS missed. HCL, Wipro had a positive surprise in their margins, and margins expanded by quite significantly for both these companies. The deal wins have been fairly steady. In fact, Infosys' large deal wins are the best that we've seen in the last 8 quarters. For Wipro as well, there was a deal win improvement on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Their total deal wins is now at a record high. TCS indicated that the qualified pipeline is higher. So despite the macro uncertainty, the deal wins and the pipeline continues to remain steady. There is a higher mix of cost optimization deals versus the pure transformation deals that we were seeing 6 months ago. But companies, the Indian IT companies, the large caps are benefiting from vendor consolidation. Taking a look at FY23 guidance, well, there were some tweaks that companies like Infy as well as HCL Tech made. Infy upped the guidance, and Infosys is likely to be the industry leader when it comes to growth this year, 16 to 16.5% top line growth. Wipro could be the laggard. But both Infy and HCL Tech's performance by the end of the year is likely to be better than what they had projected at the start of the year. Attrition has moderated across the board for the IT companies, so the supply side challenges are easing a bit, and that's one of the reasons why the hiring has been muted. For Wipro and TCS, there has been a net headcount reduction on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So that sums up the Q3 FY23 report card for you. So far, things are steady. We do not have color on what FY24 or the tech budgets are looking like.
Right, Rima, thanks a lot for that. Now, the plan to relaunch Jet Airways seems to be back on track. The National Company Law Tribunal today allowed the transfer of airlines ownership to Jalan Calroc Consortium. The consortium now gets 180 days from the effective date of November 16th last year to pay up its lenders. But this may not be the end of the matter yet. Ritu Singh joins us now with more on the tribunal's orders. Ritu, take us through the orders and what is expected next in this saga.
That's right, the NCLT has allowed the transfer of the ownership of Jet Airways to the Jalan Calroc Consortium and set the 16th of November of 2022, that is last year, as the effective date. Now, the effective date is the date when conditions precedent, as per the plan, are deemed to have been met. Now, as per the plan, JKC gets 180 days to repay creditors from the effective date, which means they'll now have to cough up the first tranche of about 185 crores in repayment to lenders by May of this year. The ownership, of course, will have to be transferred after the dues are repaid. However, lenders have been opposing this, saying the consortium has not met the conditions laid out in the plan, and they today sought a 2-week stay on the NCLT order, but the tribunal rejected the lenders' plea, and therefore we've been given to understand that banks will likely move a higher court against the NCLT order today. Now, we had reported earlier that lenders had opposed this claim and alleged that the consortium was avoiding its obligations under the plan and seeking to gain unnatural advantages which were not originally envisaged. Now, the JKC consortium has offered 1375 crores in cash as part of its offer, which has about 900 crores for infusion into Jet and 475 crores for payments to various creditors, including about 380 crores to the lenders, which translates to a 95% plus haircut for them. So while today was a small victory for the Jalan Calroc Consortium, it looks like it is not the end of the road just yet, because this legal battle may extend for a while longer.
Right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. Now, more trouble for Vodafone Idea. Vendors are likely to seek advance payments from the telco starting this month. Sources say Vodafone Idea's payment history is not inspiring confidence among vendors. Indus Stars may consider discontinuing services if advance payments are not made. Meanwhile, the Vodafone Group is planning massive layoffs to control costs, as per sources to Financial Times. Most of the job cuts will take place at the company's London headquarters. It will be their biggest layoff in 5 years. Vodafone employs about 1.04 lakh people globally and around 9,400 people in UK. From telecom to banking, the cost-cutting drive continues. Goldman Sachs has begun laying off around 3,200 employees across the world, including nearly 700 employees in India. Describing the layoffs as brutal, Reuters reported that some employees were not being allowed to enter the building, while others were asked to come into the conference room and asked to leave immediately and not even return to their desks. There are pink slips handed over at cab aggregator Ola as the company begins the restructuring exercise. Sources say Ola has laid off around 200 people across tech, engineering and product teams. This cost-cutting is in line with the company's announcement last year, where it said that it would lay off 200 employees. CNBC-TV18 Newsbreak confirmed China's Alibaba Group has sold nearly 2 crore Paytm shares in the open market. A stake amounting to more than 3% was sold at 536 rupees per share, totaling more than 1,100 crore rupees. Nimesh Shah is joining us now with more details.
There are two bits of news on Paytm to track today morning. One, of course, the big confirmation that Alibaba has sold a big chunk. So they've sold 1.9 crore shares, equivalent to 3% at an average price of 536. In terms of buyers, there are the names like Morgan Stanley Asia, which is a P-note, and Gasilo Master Fund. They were the big buyers in yesterday's block deal. Remember, Ant Financial, which is Alibaba's arm, they own close to 25% stake. So the supply overhang can continue in Paytm. Also, remember, in November, SoftBank sold close to 4.5% stake, and their lockup will open in the next few days. So there could be further threat of SoftBank selling the further stake. So that could be a further overhang on Paytm. On the other side, there was an official disclosure from the management of Paytm that they've bought some shares in the buyback. So yesterday they bought close to 19 lakh shares at an average price of 454, and until yesterday, which is 12th of January, they've cumulatively acquired close to 70 lakh shares in the buyback. So while there is a buyback support from the management, there is supply overhang which can keep the stock under in pressure, and that's why I'll go with red in the morning.
Electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla has cut prices of its top-selling models in US and European markets. The company has cut prices on its Model 3 in Europe. Austria, France, Germany, UK and others saw price reduction on the Model Y. The move is expected to help Tesla qualify for more electric vehicle tax credits and boost sales. Apple CEO Tim Cook requested and received a pay cut of 40% after a shareholder vote. His annual compensation now stands at $49 million. Cook's annual pay package stood at $99 million last year. Taxi aggregator Rapido has suspended its operations in Maharashtra starting 1 p.m. today. This after the Bombay High Court ordered the company to suspend all services, including food delivery, auto rickshaw and bike taxi in the state till 20th of January. The High Court's ban comes on account of company operating without a license. The Supreme Court today came down heavily on news channels for irresponsible reporting, making observations in a hearing on the issue of hate speech. The Supreme Court said that there is a need for free and balanced press and that news shows can't be one-sided. Citing the example of Republic TV, the top court said that such channels are competing for TRPs and creating divisions among society. The apex court also expressed concerns on media coverage of a man who allegedly urinated on a flight. The court said that news channels are denigrating a human being by calling him names when he's still under trial. NDTV informed the stock exchanges that 3 senior executives have resigned from the company. President Suparna Singh, Chief Strategy Officer Arijit Chatterjee and CTO Kavaljit Singh Bedi have quit. The resignation comes weeks after founders Radhika and Prannoy Roy left the company's board. The company said that it was in the process of setting up a new leadership team with fresh strategic goals. The Adani Group currently controls 65% shareholding in NDTV. With just over a fortnight to go for the union budget, Prime Minister Modi met with economists and experts. A statement from Niti Aayog said that Prime Minister deliberated over India's economic growth amid global challenges. He highlighted that India's public and private sector need to think outside of the box to seize opportunities. In the commodity market, the spotlight this week was on gold as Indian gold prices hit a record high of 56,034 rupees. With expectations of a single-digit returns in equities this year, should investors continue to focus on alternative asset classes like gold? Sonia Shenoy is joining us now with some answers. Sonia, tell us, does the data suggest that gold could perhaps outperform and be a hedge against recession?
It hit a high of 56,000 rupees. Now that's a gain of 17.5% in the last 1 year alone. In fact, international prices hit $1,900 an ounce as well. That's a gain of almost 16% from the September lows. That's on international gold prices that will come up for you in just a bit. Now the question we're asking today is, with an expectation of a single-digit return in equities this year, or maybe not even that, is it better to move to alternate asset classes like gold? Will there be a continued up move over there? Now, what I did is I tried to assess the returns of gold compared to the Sensex for 1, 5, 10 and 15 years. And I noticed that for a majority part of the last 15 years, gold has seen a significant outperformance. Look at that. In the last 1 year, 13.9% up move in gold, while Sensex barely 4.5%. In 10 years, is the only one where gold has not outperformed. In 5 years, 13.5 and 12.5. And look at 15 years. If 15 years back you had bought gold, your compounded growth rate would have been almost 12% compared to just 7.6% for the Sensex. Now, of course, we do know why gold is rallying. A couple of key factors here. There's expectations of a mild global recession. There's a further weakening of the dollar. There's geopolitical flare-ups. So, there's an energy crisis in Europe, because of which perhaps people are moving their investments to safe haven like gold. In China, there's a reopening trade, so perhaps consumption of gold would go up there, and hence gold prices are looking good. But the question we're asking now is, does gold do well in a recession? And yes, it does. In 5 out of the last 7 recessions, gold has actually given positive returns. So we pulled out the data for you. Just look at that. Way back from December of 1973, gold gave you a 66% return in that recession compared to the Dow, which was down about 10%, and so on and so forth. Just take a look at 2001. Gold gave you a 4% return, while the Dow was down about 8.2%. And finally, in March of 2020 to April 2022, gold gave you a 20% return. Of course, the Dow also had a commensurate increase over there. So that's the big takeaway, right? Gold did well in 5 out of the last 7 recessions. Just quickly on to what brokerages are forecasting. JP Morgan has said that oil and gold will drive the commodity returns in 2023, and they forecasted gold prices at $1,860 an ounce. It's already surpassed that level. But there is one risk. The downside risk is if there is a soft landing scenario.
Well, time now for a short break, but coming up next, auto component makers seek higher R&D benefits ahead of the February 1st budget. An exclusive coverage from the auto component. Welcome back. Now, the auto components expo is currently underway in the national capital after a gap of 3 years. Over 800 companies from 15 countries are participating. Abhimanyu Sharma caught up with some auto company industry experts to find out their budget wish list.
The Auto Components Expo in Delhi is showcasing several novel technologies in ADAS, electric mobility and vehicle safety. While the industry leaders are hailing the larger than expected footfall, here is a roundup of the challenges being faced by the industry and their demands from the union government.
The only ask that we have as of now, which is really out of the scope of the budget, is a uniform GST rate on the auto component industry. Our GST rate is 28% for 40% of our items, and we would want all the items to be at 18% because we are an intermediary industry. In the first half, we've grown more than 30% of what we were in the previous year. But having said that, there continue to be strong headwinds when it comes to the supply chain. The semiconductor problem is not yet behind us.
You know, the capex cycle is kicked in. As we know that the Indian industry is increased in terms of numbers. So I can't specifically say what the capex amount is, the quantum of amount of capex. But if you look at 850 member companies in ACMA, you know, the capex is going to be pretty high. If you look at the fact that the PLI schemes are granted to 67 companies in the auto component industry, and you look at the minimum investment of 250 crores by each company, you're looking at 18,000 crores is the minimum investment over the next 5 years.
We would request government to consider that if we can get back that R&D benefit, and also in terms of the component of the systems industry, there are differential rates of GST which are applicable for various products, whereas end product, we all know that it goes at a single rate. You don't have different rates for different products or a model, right? So we would request government to consider a single GST rate for all the products.
While it remains largely appreciative of the government initiatives like the PLI schemes and the FAME scheme, the auto components industry has already witnessed the kicking in of its capex cycle. While the industry is a bit apprehensive about losing out on exports due to an energy crisis-induced recession in the Western countries, its wish list from the government includes SOPs for R&D and a uniform rate of GST. In Delhi, with video journalist Nitin Trivedi, this is Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC-TV18.
Well, ISRO has released satellite images of Joshimath town that revealed severe land subsidence. However, the intensity increased dramatically between December 2022 and January 2023, causing the town to sink by an additional 5.4 centimeters. Meanwhile, demolition of 2 unsafe hotels in Joshimath has begun. Prime Minister Narendra Modi flagged off MV Ganga Villas in Varanasi via video conferencing. Pitched as the world's largest river cruise, MV Ganga Villas is expected to reach Assam's Dibrugarh via Bangladesh on 1st of March after a 51-day voyage. Prime Minister Modi said that the cruise service will boost tourism and create new job opportunities. Veteran socialist leader and former Union Minister Sharad Yadav died at the age of 75. He was ailing for a long time and had collapsed at his home in Delhi. One of the founders of the Janata Dal United, Yadav's political career began in the 70s. He had served as a minister in the VP Singh government and later in the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. Well, on to the banking space now. A host of managing directors could see their tenures coming to an end in this year. So who are these top bankers? Abhishek Kothari is standing by with a big wall with all the details.
Well, 2023 marks a big year for the banking sector when it comes to the lenders at various entities, given the fact that many could see a change in hand with respect to the leaders on board. So as many as 8 lenders to see their current managing director's term ending in 2023. For some of them, the board has given an extension, but the RBI approval is pending. So RBI could relax and extend terms of few current MDs as per the suitability. RBI has a ceiling in terms of age for the role of MD, CEO and whole-time director in banks, which is about 70 years. Also, RBI has put another rule that, a lender cannot have an MD beyond, 15 years of the same position. So if a person is MD and CEO of the bank for 15 years in a row, they have to leave. They cannot continue for the 16th year. Let's now focus on some of the lenders who may see a sign-off of their MD completely from the banking sector in 2023. One of them is Mr. Uday Kotak of Kotak Mahindra Bank and the other is Mr. Mahabaleshwara MS of Karnataka Bank. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal will be completing his 15 years of tenure as the MD of AU Small Finance Bank. He was appointed as MD of AU Bank in February 2008. Now, some of the renewals for another term as MD of the bank from the board is pending with RBI, the likes of ICICI Bank. Currently, let's focus on the age of these MDs at the bank. So, Bank of Baroda's MD, Mr. Sanjeev Chadha, is about 58 years old. Bank of India's MD, Mr. Das, is about 58 years old. IndusInd Bank MD, Mr. Sumant Katpalia, is about 60 years old. The youngest in the list is Mr. Sanjay Agarwal of AU Small Finance Bank, who is 52 years old. Karnataka Bank's MD, Mr. Mahabaleshwara, is about 63 years old. ICICI Bank's Mr. Sandeep Bakshi is about 61-year-old. And SBI's MD, Mr. Dinesh Khara, is also 61-year-old. Kotak Mahindra Bank's Mr. Uday Kotak is about 63 years old. Back to you.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.